All right, now that you have the hang of the Thrive Architect Visual Editor and you know how to create some of the more popular pages, I want to show you a couple of other types of awesome pages that you can create with Thrive Architect. So in this lesson, I'm going to show you how to create a tools or resources page. So you can use this type of page to list out all the tools that you use in your business. You can break them up into categories or even stages that your audience might go through, and then share that page with new subscribers or on social media. This is a great way to help your peeps find the resources that they need to accomplish what you're teaching them. And it's also a great way to generate some more affiliate cheddar. Yes, the income. We love that word. So if you're an affiliate for any of the tools or apps or software that you use, and I'd highly recommend you become an affiliate for those resources, you can link those resources up to your affiliate links on this page, and that's just a win-win for you and your audience. So let me show you how to build this bad boy out. You're gonna love this, especially if you have never created a page like this before. Now I'm just going to build this page out on my theme because I don't mind that it has the header and main navigation. This page is going to have links all over it, so I'm not worried about things being distracting like I would if I was creating a landing page or a sales page. So you can build this out using one of the blank templates that I've showed you, or you can just build it out on your theme, right? Whatever's clever for you. Now, first things first, I want to make sure that you understand that anytime you link something up with an affiliate link on your website, you need to acknowledge that. Okay, so for a whole page like this, meaning one that's going to potentially be riddled with affiliate links, what I do is just write up a quick blurb for the top of the page to let visitors know that, a lot of the links are affiliate links, and reassure them that you only promote resources that you've used yourself and that you absolutely love. Okay, so with that disclaimer out of the way, let's get started building out this page. All right, I'm going to build out this top section pretty quickly, but basically it's going to have a background section with a headline, a divider, and then that blurb that I was just talking about. So let me build that out in warp speed. All right, so there you have it. My headline, just a little decorative divider, and then that blurb that I was talking about. So let's get to this resources section. So as always, I'm going to add another background section. I'm going to give that a little margin and a little padding. Next, I'm going to add another headline. So I'm just going to drag the headline in there. Change that to my H5, center it, type out the title I want, and then increase the font size. Now I'm going to duplicate this divider right here and drag that down below that new headline. Now the next thing I want to do is drag a content box into this background section. I'm going to be building out some columns, and I want them all to fall inside a content box so that it's super easy to duplicate. So let me drag that into this background section, make sure it's right below that divider. And then inside, like I said, I'm going to drag the columns, and I'm going to choose a third. I want 3 columns in here. Now in the far left column, I want an image, so I'll go ahead and drag that in there and select the image I want. So this will be for Deadline Funnel. This is the first piece of software I want on my resources page. All right, and then in this center column, I want a subheadline, a headline, and then a little blurb. So let me do that warp speed. All right, and then in this far right hand column, I just want a button. So I'm going to go ahead and drag that from my template. All right, and the last thing I want to do is drop another divider right below here, just a light thin gray one that spans the width of this container. So I'm going to come up here, search divider, drag that in, make sure it's below the columns, right there below columns. Then I can come up here, change the color to something much lighter. And I think I'll reduce the size to, or the thickness to 1 pixel. And then I'm going to go ahead and make sure there is 25 pixels of padding. All right, so here's your main tools column, right? So basically what you want to do is get this all styled up, right? Exactly the way you want it. You're going to check the tablet and the mobile versions, make sure everything's dialed in, and then you're just going to duplicate it. So let's do a little bit of formatting. So I'm going to hit this image size. I'm going to make sure this is much smaller. So I'm going to go ahead with, let's see, 260. Perfect. I'm going to come down and make sure that's center aligned. I'm going to play with the line height maybe. Actually, I think I'm just going to use some negative margin to try and bump this up and reduce some of the space between this sub-headline and this headline. So I'll go ahead and make sure the headline's selected and maybe give it a -10. Perfect. All right, the button looks good. Now, another thing that you can do with columns. So if you make sure that you've got the columns feature selected, you can see up here we do. You've got the ability to vertically position things, right? So that this is looking a little more centered. So let's make sure everything's vertically centered. That definitely helps. And then the last thing I'm going to do before I check things, because I'm sure there'll inevitably be some more formatting, I'm going to reduce the width of this column. So I'll come down here to the max width, and let's say 1050, and then again, I'll make sure that's centered. All right, now let's check this out on the tablet first. All right, so now you've got some options. You can leave the columns how they're stacked, or remember, you can come up here and click off of wrap columns. All right, I'm going to leave it like that, and I'm actually just going to drag this over just a bit so there's a little bit more room for the description. And I think I'm going to drag this over just a tad as well. All right, I'm definitely digging that. So let's go check out the mobile and make sure everything looks good on this version. All right, so I definitely need this to stack. So we'll come back over here and we will click wrap columns so that they are wrapped on the mobile. I'm going to select this image right here and I'm going to give that some bottom margin so it's not butted up right on that sub headline. Perfect, and I'm actually going to left align this since it's all stacked. And I think that looks good. So I'm going to come back to the desktop. All right, now you see this changed the column width a little bit on desktop. So I'm going to make sure that I drag this back over and give this lots of space. Now I'm going to save this and I'm going to view it in my browser. So let me show you that. All right, here's that page. Let me scroll down. I think that looks pretty good. I think I'm going to actually left align this again. It's a little bit close to here. I could give it some padding on the right side, but I think I'm just going to go back to left aligning it. I had center aligned it. But otherwise, I think this looks good, so I'm going to duplicate this 2 or 3 times just to make sure the spacing between these column areas is good, and then we're off to the races. So let's head back to Thrive, and I'll show you how to do that. All right, so I'm going to left align this image. You see I had it center. I actually am going to give it just a bit of padding on the right side so that it is not too close to this middle section. All right, now I'm going to duplicate this section. Now you want to grab more than the columns. You want to grab the content box because that's also got your divider in it. So we'll grab the content box. You see the divider's in there. We'll click duplicate. On Mariam, now all we need to do is swap out the image, swap out these headlines, swap out the blurb. I'm not going to worry about that here, and swap out the call to action on the button. Now I'm going to grab this one more time, make sure that I'm in the entire content box, and duplicate that and create a third one. Perfect. Now let's take a look at this on tablet and mobile again, now that we've gotten a few in there, just to make sure everything's looking nice and aligned. So I love this. I might actually take this columns area and give it a little bit more margin here. So let's bump that up or add that. There we go. I love this. The divider, it's nice and even. Perfect. Gives it some nice breathing room. I am happy. So let me check out mobile really quick. Oh, again, I think that looks gorgeous. So go back to desktop and save it and view it in the browser one more time. All right, here it is. And that looks so slick. The buttons, everything's nice and uniform, nice and clean. Now, obviously, you can use whatever design preferences you want based on the graphic language for your brand identity. Okay, so if you want to apply backgrounds, whether those are colors or patterns or images, sky's the limit. I want to show you a couple cool things that you can do with images before we wrap up this lesson. So for your images, let me select an image. I've shown you that you have these styles, right? So I'm not going to cover those, but a couple other things for this particular type of page. You could add a border to every image. Now, be careful about this because if you use this sort of style, right, you apply a border, you're going to want to make sure that all of your images are in the same sort of orientation, right? In this case, this nice long orientation, and pretty much the same size. These borders will get really distracting if you've got a square image here and maybe a long landscape type image here, and they're kind of all over the place. For instance, let's add the border to this. Let me just show you this. So that starts to look pretty messy, but this has a really slick look if you use this type of style and you size your images. So in other words, every image is maybe a 200 pixel square or a 100 by 300 pixel rectangle. So if you're going to do that, again, make sure all of your images are uniform. Let me take these borders off and show you something else that is really cool. I absolutely love this feature and haven't showed it to you yet. So I showed you animations with the Lightbox in the Lightbox lesson and how to apply that to a button by using the animation and actions. But you can also add animations to your images, and I love this feature. So with my image still selected, I'll come down to this animation and action. I will click this first button. So you remember we used the pop-up when we were talking about light boxes. In this case, I'm going to use the animation, this first button. I'll open this up, and it's kind of like any of the slide programs, right? So Google Slides or PowerPoint or Keynote, where you can sort of add an animation to a slide. So let me add the slide. Since these are left aligned, let me say slide in from the left. And I'm going to apply this to each of these three images so you can see this. I'll go ahead and save it and show you what this looks like in the browser. All right, here's that page. Keep an eye on those images and you'll see that left slide in animation that I just added. Now, it might look a little jerky because I'm screen sharing, but I promise you it's actually really slick and it looks really clean. Don't go overboard here, all right? Don't have these images flying in from the left and these blurbs flying in from, below, and then this button flying in from the right. Keep it subtle. Let's just go with that. If you keep them subtle, it's a great effect. If you overuse it, it is going to start to look cheesy. So be really careful with this. Now, one more thing I want to show you in Thrive for this particular type of page, but this will also apply for any of those amazing blog posts that you create that are 5,000 words, 10,000 words, a lot of scrolling, and you've got all these different sections. Well, Thrive Architect's got a table of contents, and it's pretty basic, but it's pretty cool. So let me show you how to use it. I'm going to stick a table of contents. I'm going to stick a background section and then the table of contents between this background section and this top section that I created. So I'll come back, grab the background section, make sure that it's either above this one or below the other one. There we go. And now inside of that, I'm going to search up here for the table of contents and I'm going to drag that inside this background area. Now, I'm going to change this title really quick to just a table of contents, and I'm going to reduce the width of this right here. So let's make sure I am clicked on it. There we go. I'm going to change the color and the width. So I'll make that my marigold, and then come down here and maybe 400 pixels. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And then I'll center align that, and I'll give it quite a bit of margin on the bottom, maybe even 150. All right, now let's come back up to the top. Now right here, here's what happens with the table of contents. Based on what you have ticked, those are the items that are going to be added to your table of contents. So let me update this. So these are all my H1, H2, and H3 tags. So this one's an H5, this is an H3, and this is an H2. So it's pulling in every one of these subheadlines and headlines right now. Okay, we come back up here, tools of the trade, which is up here, and then it's got the web countdown timer, deadline funnel, the notes app, Evernote, right? And so you can see it pushes them, it indents them, that's the word. It indents them a bit based on what the headline is. So if you structure your page correctly based on what sections you want in the table of contents, it gets really cool. So I did that on purpose. I made these main headlines, these sections, right? So like I said, you can separate these tools by categories or stages. For instance, let's say that you teach bloggers, right? You might have beginning, advanced, and professional, right? So I made these an H5. And nothing else on the page is H5, just these headings, so that these would be the only items in my table of contents. So let me come back up to the table of contents. I'm going to untick this H1, H2, H3, and I'm going to apply H5 and update that table. And there we go, bam. Now it's got two columns over here on the right. I'm going to change that to 1, and I'm going to do a little bit of formatting. So I'm going to center align. I'm going to make sure it's all caps, and I'm going to increase the font size a bit. All right, perfect. Now, I want to show you what you can do. So we've got this entire section, right? This headline divider and all of these individual tool sections. We've got that all wrapped in one background section. So let me show you. If I click on any of this, right, we've got the heading in a column, which is part of the columns feature. It's part of that content box, right, which is the individual columns, but all of it, you can see even this headline is wrapped in this background section. Just like you duplicated these column sections, you can duplicate this whole section. Come down here, and now you can change the name. So let's change this to branding, right? And in theory, we change out the tools, the headlines, the blurb, the call to action on the button. And if we come back up here to the table of contents, and we update that, now branding's in there. Now let me save this and show you it in the browser. All right, so here's the page, here's the table of contents. Let's say I want to get to the branding section, bam, there it is, right? I can come back up and do the same thing. Let's say web design, and bam. So this is pretty cool, and again, you can style this however you want, but the table of contents is killer, and like I said, it's so easy to set up, right? It doesn't have to be complicated to be a great feature. You can change the name of this call to action, and it's very clear that these are links. So there you have it, right? A super quick way to create any kind of tools or resources page. Basically, the duplicate feature is your best friend. Set up this first section and then duplicate the hell out of it. And now anytime you have a new tool, bam, just go back into Thrive, duplicate a section, add that. It's going to take you, what, 30 seconds? All right, so that's a wrap for this lesson, but stay tuned because in the next lesson, I'm going to show you another sick-ass page that you can create with Thrive Architect, and that's a course page. Yes, hosting a course on your own WordPress website. This is going to save you money from having to buy into a course platform before you really need it. And I'm going to show you how to make this not look anything like a generic WordPress page, right? You want to create a course, okay, you just slap a video up there and then some blurbs and maybe a button, and it just looks amateur hour. Not so much. I'm going to show you two different ways of creating a course page that is beautiful and your peeps are going to be happy to pay you for that kind of course. Or it can be for one of your free courses. And again, who the hell wants to pay for a platform when you're not even charging for the course? So stay tuned for that. We're going to tackle that in the very next lesson. As always, my end of wrap bribe. If you haven't purchased your Thrive Architect license, I would be drunk with appreciation if you purchased through my affiliate link. I've got that linked below or to the side for you, depending on where you're watching this video. That's it for me. I will see you in the next lesson.